So hello there and welcome
Hello.
back. Yeah, hello. Welcome back to
Hello.
another video of mine and Wrecking Machine, and Myron is also here. Today we want to show you something that we've been working on for a really long time by now.
Over a year.
Yeah, over a year actually, that's true. It's a 1.8 three-way Bedrock Breaker. That first of all doesn't use TNT duplication because it's not a thing, and doesn't also use up any pistons. Yeah. So I'd say
And it doesn't use
let's.
observers because there are no observers in 1.8. So like
Yeah, exactly.
the reason why this thing is so big is because it needs to move in three directions and we don't have observers. So you need to use like a lot more sandstone.
Yeah, only redstone blocks and slime blocks and pistons pretty much, and glass blocks. Okay, so let's just start it up. There's an on-off switch here too. Using a budded piston. Welchen you have to finish.
Should we start it?
Yeah.
Just started. We can continue talking while it's running.
Yeah. So it only breaks in one direction, which is on the way back to the main station. So here we have the main station, which is the machine that actually moves the two-way Bedrock Breaker over. And on the other side, there's just a return station. We're gonna
And
explain.
here we have a big square of bedrock, and the machine will break the whole square of bedrock if you run it for long enough.
Yes, exactly. So later we'll also explain the bugs that the piston bugs that we use to break the bedrock here. But for now we'll just show how it operates.
Those are bugs?
Yeah, good question. Who knows? Yeah. So in this direction it won't break any bedrock, as I already said. It will just move in this direction. And over here there are a couple of circuits which move the station on this side over and move some blocks inside of the breaker, and also stop it with this piston here.
We have like two block swaps in the breaker. Like one is the butt that is used for making the headless sticky pistons.
Yeah.
The other one is just like this random one over here.
It's in here.
Can maybe look at it.
Yep. It's this one. This one just pulls a piston, I think. Yeah. So of course we have to go in the other direction, we have to push these blocks out again. Here you can see both at the same time. Yeah, we just stop both at the same time. That's good. And now we have the piston here, so it doesn't push this back. Okay, in this direction it will actually start to break bedrock soon. So in the front there's a machine we call the headless piston duplicator, and it creates two headless pistons out of a single headless piston. That's how we can get around using TNT duplication, which doesn't exist. And then in the back we use the downwards facing headless piston, sticky headless piston, to actually break bedrock then. Yeah. And of
The
course,
whole bedrock breaker is like a train bedrock breaker, like the 113 one. The stop and axiom made.
yeah. So it's one that has a like the bedrock breaking setup pretty much, with one headless piston and two normal sticky pistons. It has that for every block, and then it just uses these pistons as input and breaks bedrock with them. Most of the breaker, or a lot of the breaker at least, is for the pushing of these pistons. So you can see, for example, here we have to pull pistons out and push them over and up. And over here we have to push pistons out of the machine again. So a lot of the breakers is also just to move pistons around. Okay, and then in the station, the breaker will be detected over here somewhere. Yeah, it's this piston. And then it will start the main station. And the main station has three separate flying machines which fly in and move stuff around to move the entire break over.
I think this is actually the first 1.8 flying machine that uses multiple two-way flying machines to move stuff in the station.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, there's
And the last one as
not a
well.
lot of 1.8 flamestone. Yeah, the last one too. Yeah, this took an incredible amount of time. Okay. So
Yeah, no, it just keeps looping, right?
yeah, exactly. It just keeps looping, and it would break Bedrock forever. So as you may have seen already, we need this prepared headless piston line here with redstone blocks below, which is used to actually create more headless piston later. But you need to generate them first. We've made a setup for that. It's over here. It's really simple. We just have a piston line with a bunch of redstone blocks on top, so they are all budded. And then we update them at the right time while TNT is exploding the piston heads. So the regular way of creating headless pistons. We could have also designed a flying machine to do this, but it's not really that efficient. Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah,
You
you
can also
can
use
click the
end
lever.
crystals, right?
Hmm?
You can generate end crystals in 1.8, and then you can also use end crystals. That's the best way.
Yeah, sure. You could also use end crystals for less explosives in total, but it's not really that useful. Okay, so we just power all the TNT, and then pistons will expand, and usually all of them will actually turn into headless pistons, and the insta line also gets created, or gets deleted automatically, which reduces.
I just wanted to say it might not work in 1.8.2 because, or only in 1.8.2 and above, because in 1.8.0 and 1 the TNT is a bit different. It's like in 1.7.
Yeah, TNT is a little bit weird in older versions. It doesn't behave quite the same. Okay, so now that we've gone through that, we want to explain how the bugs work, and one of the major ones is of course one we call semi-retraction, which was previously called double retraction, or the glitchy piston state, and Myron will talk more about that now.
Okay, so I will now just give a crash course on 1.8 piston mechanics. When we depower this lever, first the piston here in the back will schedule a retraction event, and the piston in the front will schedule a retraction event. In 1.8, there is a unique behavior that if a piston schedules a retraction event, the piston base instantly becomes a retracted piston base. So if this piston schedules a retraction event, then it will immediately come in a state which looks roughly like this. The piston in the back will immediately get in a glitchy piston state like this, and when the piston in the front schedules its retraction event, it will get into a state which looks like this. Now, the interesting thing about this glitchy piston state is that the piston base here is movable. So when the first block event gets processed and the piston in the back retracts here, it will actually be able to pull the piston out because the piston base of the other guy is movable. And the end result is then that if we depower this piston when it pulls the first piston, even though it was a fully extended piston. And the reason why we can pull a fully extended piston is because as soon as it schedules the block event, it becomes a retracted piston base, and retracted piston bases are movable. This gives you this unique behavior which exists in 1.8 and before, but which was fixed in 1.9. So this is this thing. And with this you can make many interesting things. So you can also see that the piston base, if you use this contraption, you can see that it flickers right here. So every time you depower it, you can for one game tick see the glitchy piston state. And the reason you can see it is because in the tile tick phase, it will be schedule its retraction block event and get into the glitchy piston state. And after the tile tick phase, the game will send block modification packets. So the client can then see the glitchy piston state. And we get to the block event phase, and in the block event phase, the piston will be powered again. And if a piston has a retraction event and is powered, then it will convert back to the extended piston base. And but the client will not be informed about this change until the next game tick when the piston event again. So like you first get a packet for the glitchy piston base, and then you only get a packet that it went back to the original state in the next game tick. So even though it's only in the glitchy piston state for 0 game tick, you can see it in the glitchy piston state for 1 game tick. So that's next we have a contraption here. MXI built up this contraption and didn't tell me what these contraptions do, so I just have to.
I can explain really quickly.
That's right now, but we should be able to figure it out just by looking at the contraption, right?
This one is a contraption which is able to move this headless piston from this position into this piston here in this position. And we use zero-tick off pulses here and the glitchy piston state to actually perform this. So what we do is
Okay.
okay.
Maybe we first just depower the thing and show it in action. So if I click this lever,
Yeah.
we will get a headless piston over here. Okay, and now the question is, how did that work? That we get a headless piston over here, and the reason is we first had this state, and then what happened is that we depower this piston right here and make it into a glitchy state. So let's see. Oh wait, I want. Yeah. We get this glitchy piston state, and we not only have a glitchy piston state, but we also have a block event scheduled. So like at the position of a retracted piston base, we have a block event scheduled, which is our retraction block event. Okay. Then afterwards we can retract this piston over here, and then this piston will be moved out of the way, but the retraction block event, which was scheduled in here, will still stay here. Then we can push in a new piston. The new piston we push in is at first just a block 36, but then we can use this headless sticky piston to instantly finish the movement of this block 36, and then we have like a piston pushed in here. But we will still have the retraction block event, which the first piston scheduled. So we will then have like this piston right here, and we will have a retraction event of the first piston, and then we will power this piston. And if we then process this block event, then this piston will go from the retracted state back to the headless state. Okay. And then it looks like this. So here we have a headless piston. First this piston over here was over here, and it scheduled a retraction event. When we pushed it out of the way, we were able to push it out of the way because the piston base was movable. We pushed in a new piston, and then it scheduled, then it processed the retraction event while it was powered, and then it becomes a headless piston. This allows you to move a headless piston in 1.8.
So there are also some other more useless applications of this. For example, you can do some very funky stuff by actually pushing pistons directly with other pistons that are extended. This looks very weird and is also somewhat more complicated than just double retracting like here.
This is one of the most complicated tricks, because when you try to power this piston, like the idea is, of course, you first get on this piston, on this upwards facing piston. When it schedules this event, the piston base becomes movable, and when you push it out, that's the basic idea. But there's a problem with the idea, namely, if we want to push it out, we need to schedule a block event on this piston which pushes it out. But this piston can only schedule the block event if the blocks in front of it are movable. But the blocks in front of this piston are only movable after we have scheduled the block event here. So if we schedule a block event here and only then schedule a block event here, then the update order is wrong, and then this piston will retract first. So to do this complicated piston trick, what you need to do is you need to actually depower the upwards facing piston and schedule the push event, and then repower the upwards facing piston again, and then schedule a second retraction event for the upwards facing piston, and only then can you push it over. So this is like a slightly more complicated trick with 1.8. But you can see that there's a lot of depth and complexity with 1.8 pistons. It's a simple rule that if you depower a piston and schedule a retraction block event, then the piston base instantly becomes retracted, allows you to do a lot of interesting tricks.
As well as this. So this is a contraption I just quickly built up. It's a reusable triple-headed piston maker, which uses semi-retraction.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, then you can depower
you didn't tell me that there was a reusable. That's the best contraption ever. Okay, like
yeah,
so for the rest of the video, we will just show this contraption.
Yeah, this is very nice to look at. So what it pretty much does is it powers the piston here in the middle. Then it depowers it. Then it's in the glitchy piston state. Then we push in a second piston here. Power that one and depower it, and then push in the third piston with a 1 gain tick delay, I think. So the first one is instant, then no, that's 2 gain tick delay. Okay, so the first one is instant, and then the second one is with 2 gain ticks of delay. Then we can get a triple-headed piston here, very very nicely. That
In
you
112 you can also make these, but in 112 you need to use headless pistons and delete pistons or do much
Yeah.
more complicated tricks. Like
Yeah, that's
with
true.
the glitchy piston state, you can simply push out the pistons after you scheduled the retraction event, and that's make possible to make this repeatable without using any headless pistons.
Okay, and then we can actually use these bugs also in Slimestone. So here we have, for example, the actual Bedrock Breaking setup that is inside of the machine. We use two buds to achieve this. It pretty much is the same bug that we or the same operation we do over here, where we try to move a headless piston. But in this case, we try to move it downwards and we try to move it into a normal piston. So we have this bud here. This bud pushes in the piston, but also updates the headless piston and the normal piston down here using this piston. And then the zero tick off pulse that we need here. You can see we have a zero tick off pulse generator. It's the same layout as here. We do that with this second bud. Okay, so I can just activate it. Let's see it. Okay, and now I can see it actually deleted the bedrock. And this is the actual setup we use also in the machine that's still running over there. Okay, and the other bug that we already mentioned is a headless piston duplication bug. It's a little bit more involved because we pretty much do the same bug twice because a headless piston can actually accelerate two blocks, not just one. The one in front of it can accelerate from... No, I need to start differently. The one in front of it can accelerate even if it comes in from every direction, but the one 2 blocks in front of it has to be moving in the same direction that the headless piston is facing. Myron can probably explain it better than me, so I'm just gonna...
Yeah, like if we have a headless sticky piston here, and we have a block 36 directly in front of it, when we retracting this piston will instantly finish the movement of this block 36. And there's also another rule that if you have a block 36 2 blocks in front of a sticky piston, which can be headless or not, and if this block 36 is moving away from the sticky piston and if it resulted from an extension, then the headless sticky piston can also move, instantly finish the movement of this block. And like the second behavior is the normal block dropping. So like if you have a sticky piston and you give it a short pulse, then it will teleport the block over here, and it can teleport the block over here because if we first extend this piston, then we get a block 36 here, which moves away from the sticky piston and which resulted from an extension. And such block 36 can be dropped by headless pistons. So there are two block dropping behaviors in headless sticky pistons, and if we use both block dropping behaviors at once, then we can use one headless sticky piston to generate two headless sticky pistons, because what we can do is we could first have like two extended pistons here, then we could make depower them and make it so they both schedule retraction block event. When they do that, their piston bases instantly become movable and they get into the glitchy piston state with the while still having the retraction event scheduled. Then what we can do, we can push both of them away and push in like two other pistons, which are at first just block 36. And if we do it in a clever way, then we can make it so that the block 36, which is further away, moves away from our headless sticky piston and also resulted from an extension. And if we then depower the headless sticky piston, then what will happen is that we get two pistons in this location while also still having these retraction events scheduled up here. If these retraction events then get scheduled, then we get two new headless pistons.
Yep.
That's the main idea. So we use both block dropping behaviors of headless sticky pistons in order to get two headless sticky pistons from one headless sticky piston. And this allows the flying machine to work without any TNT duplication. Like usually in Bedrock Breakers, you use TNT duplication to make explosions which generate headless pistons, but in 1.8 you can simply use headless pistons to generate headless pistons. Don't need to use any explosions.
Okay, so then
and the machine right here will duplicate one headless piston. So in the machine right here in the center, we have like one headless sticky piston. And if we activate the machine, then in front of it, we'll get headless pistons. So
you can see we just generated
one.
Here.
Yeah, exactly. So using a single headless piston and a bit of zero-tick technology, we can generate headless pistons.
Okay, so we had already about 11 months ago, we were able to create a one-way machine that actually duplicates headless pistons. Pretty much all parts in this machine are fairly visible and easy to track. So, or somewhat easy to track, it's still kind of complex limestone. So we can show this machine in action too. So this is just a headless piston duplicator and it's a single direction, but we can still look at it. I hope it works, let's see. Yep, there we go. And it is a little bit slower, so you can also see what's going on. So we pretty much perform the same glitch that we have a machine over there. And on every block using the headless piston we have back here, we push in a piston from above and we push out, where is it here? We push out the piston over here using this lime line, and that way we can get both of the pistons moving in the direction they are supposed to be moving in, and then therefore create our lovely headless pistons here. It'll sadly now run into iron blocks, but that's fine. Okay. So we also want to explain a little bit how the machine itself works. So we created a couple of setups over here where we can explain some of the components we are using in the actual Bedrock Breaker in a little bit more detail, because we find that it's kind of interesting. There's also an explanation here for a different way to achieve semi-retraction. It's a little bit more complicated than the one over here, because here...
This is like a more accurate explanation.
Yeah.
So like if you retract this piston over here, then the question is how does the piston over here even get a block update? And like what actually happens is when the block event gets processed, first the piston base replaces itself by block 36. Then it sends out block updates. When it sends out block updates, the piston head gets deleted. When the piston head gets deleted, it updates the piston in front. And when this piston gets updated, it schedules the retraction event at its position and it goes over into the glitch state. And only after all of this has happened does the first sticky piston, which is now already a block 36, actually start pulling the blocks. So it then checks whether this block is movable and then pulls it and creates a block 36 and complete explanation. Double retraction. Yeah.
Okay. So
here are some of the contraptions we used in the breaker. I would say I would call this one like a bit of piston scheduling. If you push this piston here, we can actually like push this piston with a redstone block. The reason is, let's place a bedrock here. After this contraption got pushed, we have this state, and this limestone update order will update this piston here before this piston, even though this piston is powered. Like this one is QC powered, right? It's received an update, and then we can push the piston with the redstone block. Will not work right now because I updated with the bedrock. But that was really handy in the machine. This one is a little bit more advanced update scheduling. Myra, maybe you want to explain? It was his idea to use it in the breaker, I think.
So this is the component that actually pushes down the headless pistons here, or this one in particular, into the machine. Then there's the headless piston here. It's a little bit hard to see, but so what we pretty much do here, because this piston is usually not able to push downwards, because of course there are extended pistons down here. But when we move it over in this fashion, the piston will actually arrive first before everything else, and then this block here is actually a block 36 when these three blocks already arrived, so we can get around the first moving check that the piston does, which we already explained over there with the setup or remove an extended piston. And that way we can get around this first moving check that extended pistons do. This was very, very important because previously we used an extended piston here. Extended pistons can always retract, you can think about it and it makes sense. But it would have been better to use a retracted piston.
It was really hard to move it freeway,
Exactly, and so we had to redesign the machine for that.
And I think to completely understand the component, you would need to see it in the context of a flying machine, because currently it's just always movable. But the point is, in the flying machine, when you push it over, like this piston can't always schedule the extension event that it's supposed to schedule. But you can schedule extension events which would otherwise be hard to schedule if you schedule them right when the slime block segment arrives. Because when the slime block segment arrives, it can be the case that part of it arrives, but not the whole slime block segment arrives, and then the part in front of the piston might be movable, even though the whole slime block segment is not movable. Then you can schedule extension events which would otherwise be impossible to do. That's a
Here we have, I think, what we used in the main two-way flying machines. Like we have a few caterpillars there that move the whole breaker. We update this piston with this glass block here. So this is like a bit of a shorter extension or butt. And this redstone block wouldn't update this piston here because it's already gone before this piston checks to be powered.
Okay, and then of course we have a lot of two-way extensions. So the regular two-way extension, which we mostly use, is of course the wall eater extension from Whitestone Jazz. But there are also certain cases where this was not applicable. So we have other extension types like this one, where we have this segment which has a lot of push limit, which is very important in some situations, and then we can use like zero ticks for that. Yeah. And a lot of different extension types in that machine. This is one of them. Then for the pushing mechanism, which in this breaker is kind of complicated, because of course we need to push this piston here. Yeah. As you can see in this setup, we have to push this piston out into this position so that we have a block 36 here that's getting pushed out. And in the actual setup, we do this with this little circuit here, where we move this thing here in a circle. So this piston is actually the one that would duplicate the headless pistons. So there would be a second one. Where would it be? Yeah, it would be here. So it would look like this. This would be a headless piston, and from above this would get pushed in. And so this is the segment that actually moves this piston into this position by being pushed, and that's of course very vital for the headless piston duplicator to work. This was found first by XYOR. He worked on this machine too, and we have been using it ever since. There's also a second component that moves in the same fashion, which is this one. What is very important about this segment is that everything is accessible from the back, and that the piston here gets his block event scheduled by a tile entity, which is the tile entity of the moving blocks here, to get the right update on the machine. It's not very important why we need this, but it's important that we have these two segments. You can actually see them in the machine over there. We can show it later at the end. And those two segments move synchronously, but one pulls and the other one pushes. This one is mainly for updating and depowering. And then of course, the most important thing in Slimestone 1.8.
The caterpillar.
The caterpillar. Yeah, this is also spammed all over the station mainly, because of course two-way caterpillars are not really a thing. But yeah, very nice. Okay, so let's actually see these two things in the breaker itself. It's still running, as you can see.
I can stop it. It's about to dock.
Yeah,
no, just let continue running.
Okay.
We just let it run, and in this direction we can actually see it. Here we have this segment which pulls, and we have the segment that pushes. It's a little bit hard to see, but let's do take rate 1. So this one pushes out, thereby it moves block. You can see this block is the one that gets moved. Okay, we can see it, the piston moves into position and moves it out, and here we pull. Okay, so this it's a very nice segment. You can also see the, if you remember, the actual Bedrock breaking layout is in here too. It's a little bit more complicated because we need a couple more pistons for it to work. But you can see we have this butt here, if you remember, and this butt here, and those get used to actually break the bedrock here. There is a Word download in the description where you can find all of these contraptions. It's a world download for 1.8, so it uses command blocks everywhere for repasting stuff. Hope you can. There's a lot of command blocks. Yeah. Okay, so we can also stop it now. Do you have 400 Zielwächen? Okay. There's an on-off switch on the other side too, but yeah. Okay, so I always say that this was quite a lot of effort with a lot of people involved, and I'm happy that everyone got involved. Like Myron designed a lot of different ideas for this. For example, the idea to move stuff in here with this piston, to move this redstone logger out of the way.
Ingo and Attila helped as well, yeah.
Yeah, and XYR.
And desktop was also a few times on and helped with some stuff.
Yep. Okay, there's also, funnily enough, and
glowsquid.
Oh yeah, definitely glowsquid too. There's a parkour in here where you can actually go to the very top of the machine. I will have an unlisted video in the description where you can see how it's done. If you want to find out it yourself how it's done, then you can try. Okay, so thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Bye.